Hello and welcome everyone in another episode of Researchers Celebrity. Today we have Dr. Mukesh Thakur with us as our celebrity, and a brief introduction of Dr. Mukesh. Dr. Mukesh has done his bachelor's and master's in biotechnology from CCS University Meerut, and then he joined Wildlife Institute of India, Dehradun, for his PhD, which was awarded by Kurukshetra University. Since then, he has been associated with many institutes nationally and internationally, including India, Italy, China, and then currently he is a senior scientist at Zoological Survey of India and also leads the Center for Wildlife Forensics and Conservation Genomics. With this brief introduction, I would like to say thank you so much, Dr. Mukesh, for taking time out for this conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much. It is really a pleasure of mine to be here and to share some of my, the life journey, how I started and how I reach here.
Absolutely. So that's a great start because we always ask that how and when you decided that you want to become a researcher.
Thank you so much.
So when you decided that
Oh,
you want to become a researcher, what were the basic reasons or when you realized that you actually want to become a researcher?
so actually, when I was studying my master's and I was studying biotechnology, there itself, it was like little clear that I would be doing science to the rest of my life. I was not sure how and where, and but definitely as like I completed my master's up to 2007, I developed a very keen interest in science. And I remember my very first interview in Wildlife Institute of India, where my supervisor, that scientist later on turned to be my PhD supervisor. He asked me what you want to be in your life. So I said, sir, I want to be a scientist like you. So, so in 2007, it was like I developed a very keen and core interest in science, and uh, I can say this inclinations was right from my graduation. I used to bring my colleagues to my hometown, and I used to say like, please come down and we'll do some, ecological discovery. So we used to go to the irrigation canal, and there we used to collect some alga, the red alga, Batrachospermum, which is the only the freshwater algae found in the otherwise all red alga is exclusively found in marine water. So I used to literally drag my colleagues and fellow students to come and search for the algas. So I can say this has given me the understanding of the nature, and spending my more time with the forested areas, and this really gives me a deep sense of satisfaction. So while in 2007 I joined Wildlife Institute of India, I developed this core interest. Rather, I would say I explore myself in nature, and fortunately I got an opportunity to work on Red Jungle Fowl, where I used to spend a lot of, sometime months altogether to trap the jungle fowl in field. So it is like a wild bird where I used to put some traps, stay there in field for about a week or months, and then once the bird is habituated, they come across to our the live snares, and we collect, blood sample from those birds. So this was the time that has given me yes, that I have to become a scientist.
So that was a great start. Like, start from your masters, and as you said that even in your bachelor's, you used to take your friends and colleagues that okay, let's do discovery. So you were always passionate or oriented in science towards the discovery part, which you have done quite a lot. And then we will uh, try to cover some of them during this conversation. So, when you already mentioned that you were part of Wildlife Institute of India, and the then scientist, when you were interacting, you were like, okay, this is what I want to become in my future. So, apart from the discovery part, Have you ever heard or experienced any challenges that what a scientist has to come through before committing to PhD?
There are a lot of things, and I mean, honestly speaking, when I was a researcher and now I'm a scientist, I see a lot of difference. I mean, in executing the research and actually doing the work on ground. So it's really very different, and both roles are very important. I cannot undermine that the researcher role is not that important, but I would say this is a very close coordination between the researcher and the scientist. The difference is when you conceptualize an idea and you have to execute this idea. So you need to bring lot of funding, you have to bring resources, and definitely the good brain as a researcher is very important and vital aspect of it. So the researcher, which I believe nowadays people are not that committed. I mean, at least in some field, I can say where I am dealing. So getting a committed researcher who I would how to say, who really digest that idea, what has been developed and conceptualized by the scientists. So accepting that idea and that bringing and to this to another level. So this is like, because scientists, most time what happen, we become so occupied in raising funds, networking, and writing reports. So the primary the work has to be led by the research scholar. So if we get a self-motivated research scholar, which I think that I would have been during my the PhD time, and this can definitely certify by my guide, because everyone thinks like they are very have been sincere, but this definitely would be justified by my guide. So uh, yeah, researcher has its own her own his or her own limitations, and so where the good supervision, the close monitoring of the researcher by the scientist, so this both pens are important. And this is how the science grows, and it's all about research. So we are researching those things or topics which has earlier discussed or not well explored. So I think this tuning is very important.
So this brings us to our next question, that role of the mentor in your PhD.
It's great, and I would say my PhD guide has really given me that freedom to think independently, because I believe an independent thoughts is very important. Reason being, if you confine a researchers just to do this 9 to 5 work and not giving space, then you might miss those ideas, or maybe some new interventions which could be possible by the because researcher, I would say, is more updated, because he's every day is reading or researching articles. However, the PI or the mentor is having number of students and more busy in writing proposals. So I would say in that thematic areas where a researcher is working, if you just keep a close monitoring, but give him some space to think independently. And I have been lucky enough to get my PhD guide who has given me this space. And that is how a researcher evolved, I would say.
Yeah, very
So,
good wording. Yeah,
so,
very
so,
well said.
so yeah, so I would myself has realized, I feel myself very different from the other colleague of mine, particularly because of my guide has shaped me to grow independently.
Mhm. Independence is like, now we do talk about the role of freedom and independence in early stages of researcher, because that's how you actually shape them into leading scientists or future, leaders in the field of research. So what was the first thing when you submitted your thesis? Or let's say when you defended your thesis, what was the first thing which you were thinking that what path you will take?
Yeah, yeah. Coming to this question, I would also like to share the lab where I work in Wildlife Institute of India. Uh, uh, this lab, during that time, I don't know the current status. We never logged this lab because a, a group of researchers, they used to work in daytime. I was the one who was kind of working in night shifts. I used to work in the American hours, and whole night I used to work. I used to go to the lab around 6:30, 7 o'clock in the evening, and used to come early morning around 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. So I used to work the whole night. So my supervisor was so kind enough to consider this kind of the culture and maybe my behavior to work at night, that he used to morning 10 o'clock he used to avoid calling me, because he knew that Mukesh would be sleeping because he would have worked whole night. I have submitted my work, I would say, in a very appropriate time. I did not take much time in completing my PhD. So I would say in 3.5 years, I have compiled all my PhD work, and in 4 years, I have just completed my PhD and got awarded. So it was not like a cake walk, for example, I mean, for most PhDs, because I had to spend a lot of time in field, in trapping jungle fowls, spending very long days in field, and I used to compare myself with the other my contemporary colleagues who used to work in a more advanced and modern labs those days, like people are working in ICMR and ICR labs, and I used to spend hours and altogether weeks in field in just habituating jungle fowl in the forested areas. So I also work with the Banjara community to learn how to trap the birds in wild, how to make the snares and traps. That time was little frustrating also, because when you spend long days all together, weeks, months, so sometimes feel frustrated that, oh, I'm what kind of work I'm in. So it's like just trapping a jungle fowl. But yes, this was a part of the sampling, and I can see whosoever work in wildlife and ecological studies, uh, I think these kind of the exposure is very important, because they have to understand the habitat and how the animal behave in those habitat. And so that now when I plan a new project, I understand why those initial exposure has helped me to understand, think like the animal where you are going to work upon. So PhD was a great learning experience to me, and this has made the foundation also to go abroad and explore this field in a very different institute in different cultures. So up to my PhD, I could make a very good foundation about the red signal fowl genetics, which I then explored in China.
So now the question, this is more of a comment for all the audience, the young researchers who happen to be in the field. Like, yes, Dr. Mukesh brought out a very important point that when you and your counterparts, your peers, never leave the air-conditioned lab and complete all the work in there, you feel sometimes struggling because A, you are not able to collect the either the biological material or you are not getting the results as you wanted. It might be frustrating at times, but the passion, as you see, Dr. Mukesh brings to this conversation, that even spending all those hours there is so fulfilling because you are clear, as Dr. Mukesh mentioned, that you start thinking like an animal you are working with. That is the best, I think, correlation you can do as a PhD scholar, that you are thinking that, okay, if I have to collect a specific animal, that what are the knowledges which we have, and also one more point about the information, the knowledge which we have in our heritage there. And this is true globally, that with this advanced race for developing new tools, kits, and whatnot, the local language knowledge which has been there for like hundreds of years, thousands of years. We should try to harbor that also and make it more inclusive, which will make our life easy. And also the success of the research also depends a lot on that. Based on this, Dr. Mukesh, what were your experience when you moved out from India after your PhD? And then you worked in China, in Italy, all these countries, and then came back to India. What was the basic uh, difference you have, realized in terms of, obviously not in ecology, but in terms of the approach they use?
Yeah, so for me, I would definitely mention it was a cultural shock first. Because we in India, I would say, work in more harmony and more like in supporting each other. And like when somebody is working on a project, a colleague of him or her will support in the field also, in the lab also. So we share that bond when we work in lab or in field. But there, the difference is people are more focused, and they don't prioritize the others, work. So if I have given a project, I would be completely in that project. I won't mind what my colleague is doing. So this is kind of a, I would say, a difference because people are more focused in their work only, and I would say, after the work, they have their own time. So they are not like 24/7 researchers, but in India, and I would say the situation would be still the same. So when we live in an institute where we are availing the hostel facility also, I would say the best discussion I ever had was in the hostels, and that too late night discussions after the dinner and till midnight. We are just talking, and then discussing something which we could not like figure it out in the lab. However, outside people hardly bother about it. They are very well isolated and they're focused. So, and then here in India, if I have to meet my supervisor, I don't need any appointment. I can just put a WhatsApp message nowadays, sir. I have something to discuss, and we can discuss. But there are typical, you need to fix an appointment, and then only you can see your supervisor, and that too based on his availability. So here we are more linear, I would say. We can have a more opportunities to discuss with peers. So I would say, to me, I mean, my opinion would be the learning in India would be in hard and faster. However, there you would be just focused to your project. So if you are working in India in PhD and post PhD, you will see the researcher has a lot of publications where in two three papers he or she would be first author, but there would be five six publication where he would be second or third author. He just has contributed to the others projects also. But this kind of culture is I have not seen working in China and Italy.
Okay, great. So this brings us to the core idea of teamwork. In research, people, when they say that, okay, as you mentioned, that you are more focused towards your project, and if you have time, you might or might not be able to contribute to the other projects ongoing in there. So now, essentially, now in India, we started talking about work-life balance of a researcher's life. So what are your thoughts and experiences with that?
Yeah, I would say perhaps the mental health of the researchers has to be improved. Uh, uh, and this now people are aware, and everybody's talking about the mental health and the ethics in science. So I would say, uh, to me, like it goes with the person. For example, I'm a workaholic person, and I really enjoy putting more time in my work, and that is how we are discussing after the office now also. So the But yes, because the social structure that we carry in India is very strong. Even if like we are staying away from our family and friends, but the kind of the hostel culture and the friendship at your research groups, it's give you a the feeling that you are not away from your family or friends. So and if you really have a good colleagues and a good mentor, I think we are doing excellent here. However, like if we compare overseas, people really enjoy weekends. Saturday, Sunday, they go parties, they go clubs, and I mean, they work during the office hours. And uh, at least in Europe, I can say Chinese are more, I would say, spend more hours than Indians in work. I have a colleague. I had a colleague like who used to like brush teeth and sleep in the lab and have a few pairs of clothes in the lab itself. So he used to go for a playing basketball or table tennis and then come back to the lab. So is that I would say the difference in China? They're more mechanistic. I would say their working hours really high, 18 to 20 hours. The Chinese work in lab, uh, which I don't see anywhere in the country in India.
So
Yeah.
this brings us to our next question about the burnouts, or when the researcher feels that okay, now I do need take a break to rejuvenate myself. As you said that your words, you said that you are a workaholic. You want to put more hours into it, but in your group there are different personalities who work and all. So based on your experience, what you can suggest to the next generation of researchers, that how they should handle the mental health as well as these times when they really feel that okay, they should take a break.
So go answer these questions on taking on me itself, because when we put a lot of experiment and sometimes you are not getting the positive results, you get frustrated. And I remember when you used to spend long hours in putting PCR and not getting results and then got frustrated. So I think that is the time when you should take a break. It's better to visit some nature park, garden, and take a almost like a 3 to 4 days break and visit mountains, or maybe if you are the sea lover, go to those sightseeings. And you can also visit your hometown because that give you also a positive energy. So I have been a homesick fellow in my early days, and I have no hesitation to admit this, that I used to, or every 2 months at least, I used to go to my hometown and spend 2 to 3 days with them and then come back. So every 2 months it was kind of a practice to me to go hometown, spend 2 days with my mom, and then come back. Particularly my domain, where I'm in, the wildlife, ecology, conservation science. So this is a kind of an amalgam of the field and the lab. So I would say uh, the research yourself keep you balanced, because you need to go to the field, collect samples, and collect the ecological data, and then bringing the samples to the lab and process them. So this keeps you like occupied, and the life remains balanced. But otherwise, the people who's hardcore, the lab researchers, and who generally has to stay only in lab, working say in the human model system, mouse model or animal model system, where they are rearing animals in their lab facility or animal facilities. I mean, for them, I think regular practicing yoga, going to the gym, and maybe take a break for about 2 to 3 days every 2 months they can take, I'm sure, and then visiting some the park areas, visit home. So this keep you going, because I would say yeah, being workaholic in any stage is not good, I would say now, because it take a toll on your health also. But yes, you also have to finish everything you have taken in your plate.
Yeah.
So sometime there's that force also keeps motivating you to finish this work and then take a break. So I that is probably one of the reasons why I could finish my PhD within 4 years. And I remember when I was 28 year and half, I got a DST Young Scientist project also. So after completing my PhD,
Mhm.
my PhD was had took almost 3.5 years. So timely finishing your PhD and post PhD give you more number of years to try for the stable positions, because the postdoc and the tenure track positions, they are they give you, enrich you with the skills, but ultimately you need to settle in your life and in your profession. So the early finishing your degree and diploma courses give you more time so you can apply and appear more examinations.
Absolutely. This, I would like to take a moment here to say to all the audience that irrespective of which stage of your career you are, the points which Dr. Mukesh mentioned here are very critical to every researcher, that everyone has their own way of rejuvenation. It might be you visiting your family once in a while, or going to, mountains to see the beaches, whatever you can correlate with. It can be nature, it can be the otherwise, because some of these current generation, they are fine with playing online games, going to movies, theaters, clubs, whatnot. You have to identify that what are the places where you can rejuvenate yourself, take all this stress, anxiety out of the system, and then again come back to research. Because what we have seen in current days is there is a lot of talk about mental health of a researcher, PhD students. There are cases when students drop out after putting into 3, 4, or sometimes even 5 years into that system. It's the lack of I can say the inefficiency of the system, that if someone has put so much of time, energy, and enthusiasm, obviously, because it is impossible to spend 3, 4 years in a lab or on a topic where you have worked, and without proper guidance, you just miss on all of that, just because there was not even a sufficient support system or whatever the reasons may be. What we in these conversations try to bring out is like, you have to identify when to quit or when to take break. When we talk about mental health, this is when you are taking break, not quitting. Yes, in there are situations when you have to quit and it is also justified, but you are the best judge of yourself with only one piece of suggestion, because at Empowering Science Foundation, we believe in breaking the barrier. And one of the barrier, most of the researchers, what has been identified, and it is published also, that when it comes to their research, they are not very open about it. They are not seeking help they should. So either talking to your supervisor or to your friends, or to even now with this technology, you can actually discuss the problems worldwide. You can write to the scientist whose work you are, trying to work on or something similar, and there are people who are going to help you. At Empowering Science Foundation, we are building this network of mentor-mentee, that if you consider yourself as more correlated or in alignment with this, our researcher celebrity, you can write to us and then we can put you in touch with those who can help you. But we all can do this with your help and the passion from you which drives the research. So coming back to Dr. Mukesh's comment on how it is so important that you realize that A, what you are going to do with your PhD, B, what are the skill sets needs to be acquired before getting a permanent position, which altogether is a different story, that how challenging it can be in getting those positions in India. Based on your experience, Dr. Mukesh, how will you say that a researcher who's going to submit their thesis, say in this year 2025, should prepare themselves for the faculty positions, be it academia, in industry, or in government research institutes, as you are, how they should prepare their profile accordingly.
So I would say the one should start initiating or building network right from the very early days of PhD. For example, in science, the networking really plays a big role. So when you are in the second year or third year of PhD, when you have generated some novel data and you are presenting this piece of information to the different audience, so I would say keep building network right from that point. When you have some data and then there is a specific audience, they keep writing to the small colleges, big colleges, universities, go and take their guest lectures there. Maybe build a some network in the private firms or the industries, because nowadays there are a lot of industries who's like in the biotechnology sectors and biomedical sectors, we do a lot of genomic stuff. So right from that time when you are the going to submit PhD, before that you have at least some understanding where you can land upon. For example, if you are interested in academia and you are taking guest lecture in some of the colleges, university, you have built network in those era. And if you are like more inclined towards the industry, not interested, very interested in teaching, so you have had your own visits in the industry and have acquired those skills, because in during the PhD you work on a very specific objective and topic. But for getting hired by the academia or the industry, you need a lot of other skills also. So those skills you have to populate while you are studying PhD, maybe by attending seminars and training and workshops. So I would say, and if you because after every PhD, when you are going to submit or going to be awarded, there would be always like a gap of 1 to 2 years. And people, that time people struggle a lot. And this phase comes in every student life. So when they have to write, so I would say that time you should make a checklist of the national and international fellowship you can apply right during submission of PhD. Because this phase, I always say this to my students also, who is nearly completing PhD, that you should apply for the NPDF and CSIR pool scheme and CSIRA, DBTRA, and then Young Scientist. So there are a lot of scholarship available within India. Like nowadays, government is really has imbibed lot of funds and to retain the good brain in India. So there are a lot of fellowships. So one should be aware of all those fellowship. So before, because not necessarily just after completing PhD you would get the job in the academia or industry, but that time you should have a your own fellowship, scholarship. So this 1 or 2 years you will build some new skills and confidence. And this is how I believe that after submitting PhD, one should also submit a lot of these the RA-shaped projects, proposals, where he can get or by 2 to 3 years where he can struggle and find jobs.
Absolutely, and I think this is a very a valid point for all the students as well as their mentors, that they should train these students even during their PhD that how to write those grants, make them part of it, let them contribute to it, because this is what makes what prepares them for their future about securing funding. Because as you mentioned, like resources, the two integral part of getting all these resources, as you mentioned, is one, curious brains, like what are the researchers you are going to hire to take part of that, and the second one are the fundings, because you, even if you have brilliant ideas, without funding probably most of the things won't work out. uh, Another point of this conversation, as we are walking towards the edge of the conversation, based on your experience, Dr. Mukesh, what you can say, that the things which a researcher should do or must do, or there are things, the list which they should not do or never do?
So I would say first take care of themselves first. In a way, a good brain, a healthy brain can only lead good science. If you are tired mentally, physically, I mean, you will lead nowhere. And then adopting the good research ethics. So there are, and I'm sure that and every institute people talk about the research ethics. So one should strictly adhere to the research ethics. And fortunately, I have never come across to any student up to now who has like stolen some ideas, or because this often happens within a small group or larger group. and and I feel like the researchers should not make a kind of a meta population within the group. Sometimes what happen if it is a 10 students in one group, so they would be divided into these smaller groups, and then they keep hiding the facts and the finding the results. But I believe the research should be kind of be open, where we can discuss openly. And I really never hesitate to learn from anyone. Even sometimes my students give me some good lesson, which I always appreciate. And I always, admire to those students who never agreed with me. So I really prefer, because something I am telling to a student and he is blindly following that. So there is there's no learning. So I always say to my students, please do mistakes, lots of mistakes, but make those mistakes which I have not done, because this would give us an opportunity to learn something new. So I would say this would be a supervised learning, but also giving them freedom so that they can make those mistakes which I have not done. We can speedily and invariably learn something new things. So never lie to your supervisor. Even worst to worst happen, never lie to your supervisor, because I think he is the one who's going to safeguard you in all those situations. And never manipulate any data just for the sake of science. Even if you have not generated good results, do not fabricate, manipulate just for the sake of publication. And even there are venues where you can even publish your negative results too. So the one should be quite open enough. So I mean, always say that when my first, crop of students were about to submit their PhD or submitting PhD, so I have myself pushed them to apply for the teaching positions, maybe for the contractual post or maybe permanent post, guest faculty, because I wanted them to face interviews during that time when the PhD has not been awarded. So when they would have PhD and have a good publication, they would be more confident. But this is a process. I would say the research and getting the a stable position is a process. And if I would say no, I have to get a stable position within a year, it never happens. So sometime I was also struggling and I got frustrated. No, now I will not work in India. I have a better opportunity abroad. But then I thought, no, I have some inclinations towards my country. I have to contribute whatever I learned. I learned from this country. So it's better to go outside and do capacity building of yourself first. Once you feel now you can do some make some changes and can do some good science, can lead a group. So I think this kind of phase it passes through to everyone's life. So as you asked that what a student should not do, so I would say, so never manipulate any data.
Absolutely. That's a good one. And with this, we'll say to all the audience that the points, key points from Dr. Mukesh Thakur's conversation, that take care of yourself mentally as well as physically. Always keep your research ethics very high, and collaborative research is a teamwork for sure. And the great phrase which I learned today, that supervised learning with due freedom. That is also one of the important part. Never lie to your supervisor or manipulate data. With this, we'll say thank you so much, Dr. Mukesh, for having this conversation with us and enlightening and supporting the mental being of young researchers in India and globally too. And to all the audience, we will say that stay tuned for another episode of Researchers Celebrity. And if you want to write to Dr. Mukesh, you can write to him directly. If you want Empowering Science Foundation to put you in touch with our researcher celebrities, we are there to always help you. The only thing which we want from you is your passion for research, and we are there for whatever it takes for you to achieve your goals. Thank you so much, Dr. Mukesh.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I once again, thank the Empowering Science Foundations and this very charismatic episode, the Researcher Celebrities. Thank you so much to have me here.
It was a pleasure. Thank you. Bye bye.